time on that one.
Yeah. Hi guys, how are you?
Determined. Twice in a row.
This is the Top 40 Timeline video show where we talk about rock and roll trivia and laugh and fart around. And this week's show,
He does the farting.
yeah.
We just do
Most
laugh.
time.
We laugh.
Well, it's a medical condition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody laughs
Your
at
story,
farts.
you're sticking to it.
We are brought to you this week by Mix 105, Central Indiana's classic hits, and
Shout out to Austin.
Austin and the gang there do a great job of serving Central Indiana, and I do the morning show there. I have been the morning guy in Kokomo in Indiana for years, and some small town in Maryland I can't pronounce. And I'm a night guy. At Party Dog Radio, and
He
I
never
do
sleeps.
Sunday. I never sleep. I just keep going, and you'll be
That's why he
amazed.
farts all the time.
That's right. But Mix 105, hello to you guys, and you do a great job. Austin does wonderful things for the community, and he also runs what we do on the radio.
Yeah,
I mean,
on the radio
he's
side,
our
yeah.
chief engineer and IT guy, and
Does a great job.
that's right. So we're going to kick it off, and I'm Big Daddy, of course, and we're going to introduce Leah Lywood, who, of course, she is our midday host on our local radio, right? As well as doing
does
this.
trivia for us.
And
every
then
day.
our main voice of Halton Hills Online and all the local stuff we do is Mr. Lee Lake and Mr. Pipes right there too.
Ooh, what? Hey.
So and then we have Mandy sitting over there, and we'll bring her in at the end of the show.
Yeah, joining us later.
Amanda, and she's the producer today. She's sitting there. She hasn't got her phone in her hand, is she?
I
She's
noticed
not looking
that.
at her phone. She's
That's
usually
because she did that all last video.
Right.
It's okay.
She got
It'll ding in a minute.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that sucker's coming back up quickly.
You know what I think of Amanda when I hear that da 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 da
Yeah.
da 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 da. Oh, Mandy's around here. Oh, there
Somewhere,
she is.
Meanwhile, it's somebody else that has the same one or something. You know.
Now, this show is produced by Leah Lywood, of course, with all the information. She's the one that researches everything and sends us a couple of curves. We got one coming up. I'll let you lead off with the story, of course.
Alrighty, so let's see. In 1976, Joe Strummer of The Clash was quoted, "Yesterday I thought I was a crud." Side note, a crud is a term for something disgusting or a contemptible person, for those that don't know what a crud is.
Right.
Then I saw the Sex Pistols and I became a king and decided to move into the future.
It's a bold statement to
It
make.
is.
Yeah.
That's a very bold statement to make.
But Joe never hesitates on
No,
that, so
no,
I don't
he-
think it matters.
He's not a one with a big filter built into his.
He doesn't have any
it-
filter.
No, not
It's
at
wide
all.
open.
But then you look at Sex Pistols, and you can, I mean, it's funny.
It
It
That's
is
what
when you
makes
look at
it
the
funny,
combination.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The other one is Slade was once barred from the Top of the Pops BBC bar after they became involved in a drunken brawl with.
The Kinks.
Unbelievable.
That is
And I had
bizarre, right?
never heard that
I
story
would
before.
love to see footage of that. Wouldn't
Can you
just love
imagine
to
that?
see footage of that?
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be somebody who had
And Ray
some-
Davies
Yeah, but
picks
there
up a
was no-
chair.
We only had cameras then. It wasn't
Ray
like-
Davies
But
picks
they
up a
were
chair
filming.
and throws it at Noddy Holder, hits Noddy Holder in the head, and then Noddy says, "Oh, you really got me." Never mind.
There you go.
You
That's where
really
it came
got me
from now.
going.
Ah, you really got me. Can you
know.
imagine that, though? Two great rock bands, and there's a band we were talking about who really were underrated.
Big time.
You know,
Yeah.
Come On, Feel the Noise, all those great songs. They were Slade songs.
Well, this is the thing too, is because Quiet Riot did Come On Feel the Noise, and it was huge here.
Yeah, it was.
Yet the Slade version,
Didn't
But
do
you know
anything.
what? In my opinion, for some of that, they didn't have the right management.
oh God, no, yeah.
Had they had people
Wow.
that were actually publishing it and putting it out there the way it needed to be, I think they would have done
Like
a lot
Slade in Australia was huge.
England,
just as
right?
big as they were in the UK.
I grew up in England in the early 70s, the glam rock era,
Yeah.
when you had Gary Glitter,
All the
Oh,
mods.
God, yeah.
the Sweet, Slade, Barry Blue,
Yeah.
all those guys. And Slade were the biggest of the bunch. They were,
they were pretty big.
I had Slade posters all over my wall when I was a kid.
No, I didn't have that. Mine was
No,
still
I
Robert
did.
Plant.
No, I was in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, 72.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were sheltered in the UK from Led Zeppelin a little bit. I think they crept into
Well, they
North
brought
America
them over
first.
here to make them big over here.
That's right, and
again,
that was it.
It comes back to what Leah was talking about. Their marketing team, their management team knew what they were doing, and unfortunately, Slade didn't have that backing, and yet they were.
They were awesome.
Great tunes.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, getting back to it, 1945. Steve Martin is born in Waco, Texas. Best known as a comedian and actor, he's also a renowned banjo player, and a phenomenal one at that.
Oh.
After performing with the Steep Canyon Rangers.
I didn't know he was a banjo player.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Oh my God, the man can
Musician
pick.
at heart, let me tell you.
Oh my God, and when he plays with the Canyon Rangers, I've seen some video of this, he's actually in the background. He's not the guy out front.
No, because he's banjo. He's not one of the key 3 or 4 instruments that are usually out there, right?
And I like that about him because it's not about him. It's about the music. It's about we have Steve Martin here. We have to put him out front. No, it's.
And you know what? It's so funny because when you look at the pictures of Steve, I saw a couple of pictures I've never seen before. He was actually a really good-looking guy, and when he was quite young, playing that banjo, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
All right, I'll do one more here. 1956, Washington's D.C. disc jockey Bob Rickman forms a Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Elvis Presley after reading too many news articles that make him out to be a hick and or a threat to society. And,
well, because he had that hip movement. I mean, heaven forbid he
it.
swing a hip.
Getting all them women
he's
wet.
destroying everybody in public.
Yeah, he was. The early days of Elvis were pretty bizarre. They really were.
Yeah. People didn't know how to take it.
That's right.
Because he was also a white man that sounded black.
Yeah.
So when they went and saw him, they went, he's not black.
Yeah.
And at that time, segregation was
even
still,
get into that one.
Exactly,
that was still
right?
pretty big.
It was a very different time and era for sure when it came to race and segregation and all that stuff. So.
Okay, this week in 1967, Britain's new Marine Broadcasting Offences Act goes into effect, forcing all but one of the country's famous pirate unlicensed radio stations off the air. Radio Caroline remains on the air for another 6 months or so, but Caroline's been on the air off and on since the 60s.
Are they still on? Is it still on?
Sure they are, yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize they were still going.
While they were doing the pirate thing, they did manage to get proper licensing.
Yeah.
So once they finally got kicked out of the water.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
They actually had proper licensing at the time.
Yeah, they have an AM station on Caroline across the UK now, I think.
Okay,
and
that's good to know. I didn't know
they're
that.
on the internet, and if you ever, there's a book written about Caroline because there's so many different stages of the development of Radio Caroline, but it's a radio station that the music was a huge variety of everything.
Yeah.
And that's basically what GTA is.
Yeah.
Pretty much, pretty much.
Country, rock, album cuts, a lot of album. I mean, you can't. One thing I can't understand about today's radio is they play the same 500 songs over and over and over and over.
It's like every 12 hours. If you listen to it at a certain time early in the day and it gets into another part of the day, you can actually re-listen to it.
If a song makes the top 40, there's something about that song that's special. And to play the top 5 and forget about the other 35, come on, it's ridiculous. And at 108 our oldies are, that's one thing I love about Caroline is it influenced me with my radio programming and how I program music.
Style and all of that,
Yeah, you can't please everyone,
no.
but you can give it a damn good try. I'll do one more. 1994, Clifton Clowers, the real-life Tennessee mountain man who was the subject of Claude King's 1964 country smash.
Wolverton Mountain.
That's right. He dies at the ripe old age of 101. Still on the mountain, which is actually spelled Wolverton with 2 O's.
Yeah.
And Clowers apparently couldn't keep suitors away from his daughters as well as the legend suggested, as he leaves behind 15 grandchildren, 27 great-grandchildren, and 5 great-great-grandchildren.
That's impressive.
Now-
That is impressive.
Yeah. I love that song by Claude King.
Yeah.
Wolverton Mountain. Anyway.
Should have played you the chimes while you were doing that.
Yeah, sure.
Get right into it. 2016, nearing the end of a summer concert season where fans have been tailgating with improvised toilets. Police in Mansfield, Massachusetts warn they will not be tolerated at the upcoming Jimmy Buffett concert. Now, really quickly before I continue, I don't know if you guys seen the pictures of these on the back of hitches on vehicles. They're all over. So anyways, let me go on. So these tent toilets are easy to make with a few items from a hardware store.
Yep.
Put a garbage bag in a 5-gallon bucket and attach a foam roller around the ring and you have a basic model. Why go to the trouble? Because porta potties are disgusting and often too far from the action. We know, no one likes to poo in a portaloo, the department posts, but think of it as an experience to build character, like showering a camp with a family of spiders.
Oh my
Can you
God.
imagine? What a reference. I'll do this one, 2019. Matt Healy of the 1975, an advocate for the LGBTQ rights, ventures into the crowd and kisses a male fan on the lips during a concert in Dubai. And boy, did that cause an uproar. Where homosexuality is illegal. We're all human, right? He says upon returning to the stage.
And
took
that's
a-
And he
that's
did it a couple times, but that was the big
That's a
one.
ballsy move to do in
Especially
Dubai.
in Dubai. Yeah.
Ouch.
Getting into a wee tidbit here, Umbrella, which was not originally written for Rihanna. Christopher Tricky Stewart composed the song back in 2007 with Britney Spears in mind, and her label rejected that song.
And
So
it was huge.
it was a huge song.
Isn't she going through some split right now with
Some
her
divorce,
husband?
yeah.
I feel sorry for Brittany. She has issues,
Oh,
but you
God.
know what? She needs to be
You
left
know what?
alone.
She's actually mellowed out now, and she seems to
Getting
got
older.
her shit together. And
She was a kid.
Leave her alone. Exactly. She was a kid that didn't know what was going on. She
Like
had two
Bieber.
parents that were
Same as
two
Justin.
parents
He's
that
a
were
good
money
kid.
and
but
gold
based
hungry.
deep down.
Yeah. I'll do one more here. Coolio, his first job was a fireman.
Wow.
That's impressive, man.
It is.
That gives me a whole different perspective on him, actually. You know, not that I hated the guy or anything, but
No.
being in that industry, you know, we all talk about our first responders and how we love them and we respect them and love what they do. That's very cool.
Well, back in 1896 this week.
When you were born.
I
no, it was
remember that well. As a matter of
1897.
fact.
Oh, 97.
Yeah, I came along a year later. Leon Theremin, inventor of the theremin, one of the first electronic instruments, is born in St. Petersburg, Russia.
And what show was the theremin used on as the opening?
I have no idea.
Star Trek.
Oh, I never thought about that. Okay, yeah.
There's some more trivia for you.
Well,
Star Trek theme was originally done on a theremin.
Oh, that is cool.
I never thought about that. You're right. When you think of it when it first started and the way it was played.
Yeah.
100%.
1960 this week, the 12,000-seat Cobo Arena opens in Detroit. It's home to the NBA's Pistons, but also a great place to hear music. Kiss Alive, Jay Giles Band, Blow Your Face Out, and Bob Seger's Live Bullet all record live albums there.
Big fan of Bob Seger. I could put on any one of his tunes and I love it. It's just
Great set. And Bob Seger was influenced by a DJ called John R. down in Nashville,
That's right.
WLAC, who used to, now there's a guy they thought was black but was white, and he used to be on a 50,000 watt WLAC playing old rhythm and blues songs. And that's how Bob Seger and many musicians cut their teeth
Oh, God,
on
yeah.
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Just thought I'd bring that up because Bob is a cool guy.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
it's one of my bucket lists to get to his shows. I need to go see
Better do
one of
it
his
soon.
shows. I know. I know.
Did you want
Some
me
of
to-
those are only going to be doing it for so much
I've
longer.
been thinking about that as well too. So
I'll do one more. 1969 this week. It's day one of the Woodstock Festival on Max Yasgur's 60-acre farm, in Bethel, New York. And the festival was originally going to be in Woodstock, New York, so they kept the name. Now, day one doesn't have the biggest names, but massive crowds make it clear that something's happening here. Artists to appear on this day include Richie Havens, Joan Baez, Tim Hardin, and Arlo Guthrie.
And speaking of the marketing management behind bands, Led Zeppelin was asked to play. They did not, because they didn't want them to be just another band at the concert. Yeah. So that just goes to show you the difference in management and how they work with these guys to get them out there in a big positive way. You know,
or negative, cool. Depending,
Well, well, it depends on who's going, like the Colonel. But exactly. he did all right, although there was a lot of controversy with him. It
can go either way, so.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes. 1980, an unknown rock band called Black Rose opened for Hall & Oates at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Maryland. Audience members slowly realized that the lead singer is, in fact, Cher. Black Rose plays a few more shows and release an album, but call it quits by the end. Yeah,
there's another one. I haven't heard that one either before.
Yeah. So, 1996, a New York women's shelter refuses to take money raised by a recent benefit concert when they learned that one of the performers was James Brown, often accused of emotional and physical abuse of women.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But,
a lot of. If you actually saw the life of James Brown, man, oh man, that boy was crazy.
He was in and out of jail. I mean, he was crazy. Controversy. I mean, there wasn't anything I don't think that he wasn't involved in at some point.
Today, a show like TMZ would be all over James Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah, definitely.
2000, the estate of Jimi Hendrix acquires JimiHendrix.com, which was registered in 1996 by a Demeanor who was using to sell Demeanor, who was using to sell email addresses. Your name at JimiHendrix.com is one of those many cases that rule against registrants who are squatting names of famous people. And that was a big issue back then. There was a lot of people that were buying up these domain names and then making them pay, the family pay, to get it. And I had this happen when I had Halton Radio. There's a place in the UK called Halton, and they wanted to buy my domain name.
Wow.
And they offered me good money at the time, and I was stupid enough not to take it, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, it was interesting to see that go on through that time period, that if you owned that email domain, people would pay you for it, whether it was like Van Halen or Slade or whatever. Mm-hmm. You imagine the band trying to go get it and they can't? They'd be pissed right off. I'll do another one here. The Beatles hold the world record for the most recorded song. Lennon and McCartney's Yesterday, which had over 1,600 versions recorded between 1965 and 1986.
Can you imagine 1,600 versions? And we all know there were many, but that number is mind-blowing.
That is. I'll finish this one off too. Marilyn Manson's first job was a music journalist, and that one's interesting. I did not know that one.
He was actually quite good at it.
Actually,
apparently.
From what I understood, he was very good at it, and the guy is a talented guy.
He's just unique.
Well, he found a hook. Because he's not like that. When you see his stuff today and what he's doing, it was a hook. It was a reason to get his name out there.
Well, it was like Boy George.
Yeah.
And, they all had
and took
different
it to the
things.
extreme, right? So, yeah, very cool.
In 1988 this week, Nicholas Hartshorn booked Nirvana to play at the Central Tavern in Seattle, the band's third ever gig. 6 years later, Hartshorn was the medical examiner at Kurt Cobain's death.
Can you imagine?
That's bizarre.
That's coming full circle.
Bizarre stuff.
Yeah. A little bit of history and trivia for August the 17th. 1961, Patsy Cline recorded Crazy, the ballad composed by Willie Nelson, become, of course, one of her signature tunes and gave Cline a #2 country hit in 1962. Nelson originally wrote the song for country singer Billy Walker, but Walker turned it down, and the song's eventual success helped launch Nelson as a performer as well as a songwriter. You want me to do this one?
Might as well.
I'll do it. 1987, the Beastie Boys and Run DMC wrap up their Together Forever tour with a show at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Run DMC tell fans to stay in school and avoid drugs. Beastie Boys have cage dancers and beer. And the groups are unquestionably the hottest acts in hip-hop, with Run, Run DMC's Raising Hell album and Beastie Boys' License to Ill,
Excellent.
each with over 3 million in sales. New York City is their stomping ground. Run DMC is from Queens. Beasties represent Brooklyn. It's a sellout crowd of over 20,000, including Mike Tyson, who has to abscond backstage when he's mobbed by fans. What a riot that
And
must
it
have
kills me
been.
because if you get in my Jeep right now, it's the Beastie Boys License to Ill in the CD player right now.
Oh, I don't think Mike Tyson's kind of hanging around behind them.
No.
Somehow. 1995, Depeche Mode lead singer Dave Gahan. Gahan. I know Gahan. I always say Gahan, but I know it's Gahan. Slashes his wrists with razor blades in a suicide attempt. He is saved when a friend comes by and calls paramedics, who take him to Sinai Medical Center, where he wakes up the next morning in the psychiatric ward. Gahan has reached observed levels of indulgence abetted by hangers-on and other representatives who profit from his lifestyle and the band's success.
Shitty managers.
Depeche Mode management plays down his plight and issues a laughable statement regarding his latest incident, claiming he accidentally cut his wrists during a party at his home. When he gets out of Cedars-Sinai, Gahan goes right back to using. In May 1996, he nearly dies from another drug overdose, which also gets him arrested for drug possession. Forced to take drug tests to avoid prison time, he abides, going to the Exodus Recovery Center and eventually kicking his habit.
And they're actually, I believe, on tour right now with the Flock of Seagulls.
I knew they were on tour, but I didn't know they were the Flock
I
Seagulls.
think it was
All
with
right
the Flock
then.
of Seagulls, yeah. So,
Cool.
1999, Led Zeppelin topped the charts of Britain's most bootleg musicians, compiled by the British Phonographic Industry, or the BPI, after identifying 384 bootleg titles featuring Led Zeppelin performances. The bootleg chart was compiled from the BPI's archive of some of 10,000 recordings seized over the past 25 years. The Beatles came in second with 320 entries. Other acts listed including the Stones, Dylan, and Pink Floyd. And by the way, it's Pink Floyd Day today, so.
Wow. Zeppelin. You know, when you think about Zeppelin, really, I know it's your band, but I'm not just saying. Well, it's my band too. We all love Zeppelin, but just the overall impact they had on rock and roll was incredible.
They were so unique at that time when they came.
Yeah.
I mean, there was many that were, but
They stuck out.
just amazing.
Yeah.
And so, Stairway. I could hear it a million times. It wouldn't bother me.
They had to fight through court for that for a while too.
yeah.
2016, MTV's Catfish, the TV show, introduces Spencer Morrill, a Tennessee native who insists he's been in an online romance with Katy Perry for 6 years. He even made a ring for her out of a family heirloom. And when hosts Nev and Max lure out the catfish in England and bring him face to face with the singer, he believes the real Perry sent the imposter as a joke. That's a bizarre
It was actually kind of cruel. What
was.
they did, bringing him there on TV or whatever, the show, the talk show. I think that was really cruel.
Well, yeah.
In my opinion, I think, sure, great for ratings, but Katie and the whole, I'm sorry, I think that was in poor taste, but that's just me.
I'll do the titbits here. Frank Zappa and his wife announced the birth of their third child, a boy named Ahmed Rodan, named after the Japanese movie monster who lived with a steady tide of 707 planes. Frank had his own, moon
unit and Dweezil.
And Dweezil.
I mean, those aren't their real names.
And Ahmet Rodan,
But Ahmet Rodan was his real name.
Yeah.
Dweezil and Moon Unit were not.
I thought they were actual names.
No, they were semi-given names. Actually, Dweezil is his middle name.
Yes.
That's his middle name. Moon Unit it's not on the birth certificate. Let's put it that way.
But that's how they were known.
Yeah.
Historically, I'll wrap it up.
Girl.
1937, the first FM radio station in the United States, Boston's WGTR, now WAAF, is granted its construction permit by the FCC. So the FM was born this week in history, 1937.
Yet you couldn't get it on the radios.
No.
Because the radios weren't built with FMs at that time.
It was all AM.
It was all AM. There was no FM radios at the time when they started this. And that's what killed me about it, because the FM radios themselves didn't come out in cars until the 50s.
That's right. That's right.
So there was 20 years.
And if you really want to get into it, you've got shortwave.
Yeah.
You got shortwave, and you got, in England, they had a broadcast band on longwave.
Yep.
Where the BBC and the Irish used to
Which
broadcast.
actually ended up turning out to be UHF.
Yeah.
That's how
I
our
have no
UHF
idea. Now you're getting
went.
way. I have no idea.
So,
1955, Pete
Yeah.
Seeger.
Well, I'll start with Sheryl Crow's first concert.
yeah,
was
yes.
Peter Frampton. You skipped that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed
That was her first concert. Was
Well, I'm
Peter
not
Frampton.
surprised.
No, me
I'm
either.
not surprised at that.
And they actually, you'll see if you ever follow any of the history and stuff. There's a lot of photos of the two of them as
yeah,
with Peter
there
with
is
no hair
actually.
now, but
Yeah.
most yes. So 1955, Pete Seeger testifies before the House Un-American Activities Committee, where he is asked if he has performed for communists. Seeger replies, "I have sung for Americans of every political persuasion, and I am proud that I never refused to sing to an audience, no matter what religion or color of their skin or situation in life. I have sung in hobo jungles, and I have sung for the Rockefellers, and I am proud that I have never refused to sing for anybody."
What a great
Or should
answer.
you?
Exactly.
What a great
Or should
answer.
you?
What a great answer.
I don't care what it is. If there's an audience and you can perform, you play. You play. Music is universal around the world. Even the highest religions you can think of still base all their stuff on music, their hymns, their all that
Or
stuff.
just the sound equipment.
Yeah.
And that's what we do with the stuff, as you know, the stuff that I do. There's not a lot
drums,
of vocals.
the chimes,
it's,
the drums,
yeah,
the percussion.
the crystal bowls, you know.
It's a healing thing. It's healthy.
It's
And
into the soul.
yeah, definitely. All right, 1969, local upstart band Rush. Who's ever heard of these guys? See Led Zeppelin perform in Toronto. And in 1974, when Rush gets airplay in an American song, Working Man, radio station field lots of calls asking if it's a new Led Zeppelin song.
You know what? Come to think of it, that
But
does
listen to that
sound like a
song.
Led Zeppelin.
Well, you can
song.
hear the influence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely hear the influence in that. And Geddy Lee and even Neil Peart, same thing. He said, I watched Bonzo, John Bonham, and it made me a better drummer.
Well, look at Alex. He's amazing.
Oh,
on
the guy's
guitar.
an amazing guitar player. And again, watch his style, watch Jimmy Page. You can see that influence is there.
Geddy Lee has got to be one of the biggest baseball fans in the world.
Oh, he's huge.
His
baseball
basement
fan.
is just full of old baseballs, all
Yeah.
memorabilia.
Here's-
I would
here's-
love to check out that basement myself.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Here's a thing for me growing up. I used to go out to Beamsville off and on with family friends, and they were right up the road. I believe it was Geddy Lee's family was there, and
That's what- yeah.
and
Yeah,
you
they
could
live up that
hear
way.
the drums. I
Yeah.
heard when he'd be in his basement because I was young then, and you could hear him down in the basement just giving her on the drums, and I'd be like, "That sounds really cool. What's that?"
I remember when I went to Sam the Record Man at Square One in Mississauga, Canada, and I picked up the 2112 album. And I took it home. I remember the old albums, they used to have that new smell, and you take the plastic off and you put it on, and I cranked that
Kind of like
mother
when you
up.
got the photocopies in
2112.
off the Ditto machine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I didn't do that, but you could smell. You didn't have to smell it.
Well, some
That was
people are
pretty.
into smelling stuff, but that's
As
another
long as it's not
story.
your farts.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, I put that album on so loud, I remember my mother just
I
cringing.
think that was their #1 selling album. I think.
I love that album. I
that's
could
what
sit and
12.
listen to that
2112.
album.
2112. Sorry. Oh yeah.
Actually, I put it on
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
of times a year just to listen to
Oh
it.
God, I'd just sit and listen to it.
Or I'll put it on in the
Yeah.
car. The entire
And
album.
wonder how he was doing it.
I still often wonder when I used to listen in Beamsville because I wasn't hearing the bass so much. The practice, I could hear the drums
Yeah.
more than I heard the bass. But you often wonder their parents, eh? Look where they ended up. You often wonder when the parents are listening. Were they those parents that were getting into it, or they were going, "Oh, where's the earmuffs?"
I gotta say, both my parents, neither one of my parents were musicians at all. They loved music, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but they were not musicians. But my sister was flute, piccolo player. I was sax, drum. They never said a word. They encouraged us.
Of course.
They
That's
were
what I mean.
awesome.
You wonder,
Yeah.
and especially with how big they
Well,
got,
no,
you
I
wonder,
had-
with
I had
family.
Friends, I had friends that we couldn't go play at their place or whatever because the parents were like, turn that crap on, man. You guys can't
No,
play
it
it.
happens. That's why
Whereas
I'm saying it,
I
right?
was very fortunate, you know, my mom and dad were, you know, and obviously a lot of these musicians that went on, they had parents that encouraged them. And,
They supported what they were doing, whether it's
if your kid wants to be a
hobby or-
musician, encourage it, man. It's a cool thing, and like I said, you can play music for anybody. I've seen it in nursing homes. I've seen it in hospitals. I've seen it with coma patients. Put music on, and these people come back. There's something.
Alzheimer's and
Alzheimer's
dementia,
and
takes them back.
Absolutely.
It always does. It helps bring them back when they hear certain music.
I remember.
It's healing.
I remember seeing a video on YouTube about rest homes, and they took a little old man. He was sitting in the corner, and he was just miserable looking, and they put and he was a big Glenn Miller fan.
Right. Yeah.
So they put the headphones on him, and they
You just
plugged,
made him 25 years younger.
and his face lit right up
Absolutely.
when he heard that noise. You know, almost made you want to cry when you saw the
There's
Oh,
so
it's
many.
emotional.
There's
It's
so many
very
videos
emotional.
out there with so
Music
many
is-
different seniors, right?
And that's
when
why
they
we
do
do
that,
this
and
show,
it's-
because music is so important in our lives. Can you imagine a world without music?
No.
You want to finish that one off?
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you might as well.
Sure, it's all
All right.
1998, after getting dropped by Jive and releasing 2 independent albums, Kid Rock issues Devil Without a Cause, his first album with Lava Records. It sells 11 million copies, making the rumpled rap rocker a huge star. In 1990, Kid Rock's Jive album couldn't find an audience with its blend of hip-hop and hardcore. But he kept at it, building a following in the Detroit area. Lava Records, a division of Atlantic, gave him another shot, signing him in 1997. He celebrated by getting drunk, getting in a fight, and going to jail, where he started writing the song, Oh God Only Knows Why. When Devil Without a Cause was released in 1998, there is a name for Kid Rock's kind of music, nu metal. Now, there's a new one for me. It takes a while, but Lava is able to massage radio stations into playing the singles Bewit Daba and
Bawat
Cowboy.
Daba.
Bawat Daba.
Yeah.
Okay. And MTV gets on board with the videos as well, and Kid Rock finds himself performing at Woodstock 99 on Saturday Night Live and at the Grammy Awards, and the album sells 11 million copies in America, blowing away his boast as the title track where he sings I'm Going Platinum.
I remember him going from rock to country.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
he-
like, what is he
Well,
doing?
that was it. They didn't know how to categorize him, right?
It's like, what?
And yeah, it was because at the time, I don't know if you guys know the movie Joe Dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he's in Joe Dirt,
Yes.
and that
I
was
knew
the
that.
time when he went to country. It was right after he did Joe Dirt, and he goes to country, and everybody went, "What the?
Yeah, what's going on now?
I thought you
That's
were
what I
a
did.
hip hop metal." Like they didn't know what to do.
It reminds me of the Osmonds, a little bit country, a
Yeah.
little bit rock and roll.
Like, I
The
took my
Osmonds.
meds today. Yesterday I didn't. You know, like so. Yeah, it was very bizarre, and especially at the time because I was very critical of Kid Rock at that time because again I couldn't categorize him, and I was on radio at the time, so listening to his music and trying to introduce him and
Yeah, I
be
wasn't
you know
big on
a
it either. It
DJ.
was-
I didn't know how to talk about his music. It really kind of confused me what he was doing. But, you know, there's a couple of, I've got to say, there's probably a half a dozen of his tunes. I really do. I crank in the car and I love
He's
it.
got a few of them that, yeah.
You know,
The summer song there, the thing he did. Dun, 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 dun,
What, with
dun,
Sheryl
dun.
Crow?
No, the I can't remember it now.
I know which one you're talking about.
It came out in 2008. I know that. And
But, yeah, a very interesting career for that guy. Very interesting career. When I saw him in Joe Dirt, I was laughing my arse off. That was hilarious. Because he played the role perfectly.
how are we doing for
It
time
is.
anyway?
It is. It really is. Yeah, I think we're just about done.
47.
Yeah.
What is it?
We're good.
Gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
Gotta wrap it up. Okay, we're brought to you by Mix 105, Kokomo, Indiana. I do the morning show there.
Hi, Austin.
I've been the morning man in Kokomo, Indiana for a long time, and Austin is a great guy and does great things for his community. As we have a different
And he's the
radio-
dad of twins.
Triplets.
Or triplets, sorry.
Triplets.
What am I saying? Triplets.
Three young boys.
Three young Austins.
Yeah.
That's why when I say to Austin,
And
I say-
another, I think, daughter.
yeah,
I think an older daughter he has as well.
So he certainly is
Got his hands
the
full.
father of the year, though. I'll tell you, he's a good guy.
And all the stuff that he does with music.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And for his
us, so
community,
thank you, Austin.
and he's our
Thank
IT
you.
guy, and he's
Yeah.
our he keeps
Does
us
our
on the
weather
air.
sometimes.
He
and
does
stuff.
our weather on the local radio.
He helps
all
me with the
helps.
website when I'm doing certain things I need to do musically for the.
So,
the
Thank you for
music.
joining us worldwide on our YouTube channel. This has been the Top 40 Timeline Radio Show.
Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Amanda,
And
this
of
is
course,
Mandy.
Amanda Bassett.
This is Amanda. This
Or
is
Bassett.
our
if you're in
news
Quebec.
director on the radio there.
you
on,
pushed that one, didn't you?
and she does a great job on our local radio. Amanda Bassett here. Thanks for joining us this week, folks. See you next week.
Mwah.
Catch you on the B side.
Yeah.
Are we done yet?
Are we done yet?
I'd be the one.